I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are listening to the Postcast, presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, the Glebe Central Pub. I'm your host, Brandon Pillar, joined by the boys, Lalime's Martian and Jack Richardson, following a 5-1 loss to the Buffalo Sabres on the road in a terrible fashion where the Ottawa Senators don't really muster up anything and allow momentum goals as soon as the period starts multiple times. Martian, this was a tough one. This was supposed to be an opportunity for the Ottawa Senators to keep things rolling, to beat down on a weaker Atlantic Division opponent on the road and try to get some of those road woes out of the way. Where did this one go wrong for you?
Yeah, I mean, this one went wrong at the start of the second period and the start of the third period for me. I mean, the boys didn't come out of the gate hot after those intermissions, and I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but they just came out sleepy, and Buffalo just was the more ready to play team. I think even in the first period, they came out hot as well. So Ottawa wasn't prepared, I guess, for what Buffalo was about to bring, and I don't understand why they would ever be sleeping on any team. I know they've been playing well of late, but every opponent in the NHL is going to be a good test for this team, no matter what. So for me, it's upsetting to watch them, kind of stink the bed up a little bit on this one. So it's not perfect, Pilsy.
Jack, the Ottawa Senators are 5-1 at home, and you can Uno reverse card those stats for the road. 1-5 on the road. Is going on the road starting to become an issue in your eyes, or are you able to spin zone your way out of this?
No, absolutely no spin zone. I think other than the New York game, even the Utah game that they won, they were outplayed for that first period. Forsberg kept the minute, and then they score 4 really quick goals in the first. Like, they don't play well on the road this season so far, and that is becoming a problem. They've had 6-6. It's the record, and there's 6 home games. They're 5-1, and there's 6 road games 1-5. Like, I think it's officially fair to call it a concern. And you look ahead at who they have on the road. Like, this was the easy game on the schedule, right? You had New York, then this was Buffalo, and they lose this one too. And then coming up here, you've got Boston, Toronto, and Carolina. Like, these are some of the top teams in the league. I know Boston's not technically there right now, but it's a big game nonetheless. It's division. They're also 0-2 on the road in the division now this season. Like, it just hasn't been good enough. And I know that the home ice stuff looks great, but I think that's kind of the bottom line is until this team figures it out on the road, it's going to be hard to consider them a serious playoff contender.
And the issue is, too, that we thought this could be a game where the Ottawa Senators can get back to their power play success that they've had all season up until the late stretch. And the Buffalo Sabres were a team, we talked about it in today's episode of the Locked On Senators podcast. They were the worst power play percentage team in the league coming into this, at clip only at like 8.7% success rate with 3 power play goals all season long. And tonight they go 2 for 4, good for 50%. Ottawa Senators go 0 for 3 on the power play. The shots on goal, the Sens end up out shooting them 38-34. Face-off percentages, the Ottawa Senators do great in the dot, 56.5%. Both teams with 11 blocks. This was a physical game, 35 hits for the Sens, 37 for the Buffalo Sabres, and the 5-on-5 expected goals percentage. The Sens are ahead in that as well, 52.4%. Martian, even though the Ottawa Senators are ahead in most of the counting stats here, it didn't really seem like this was a game that they were even close to deserving to win.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I definitely am not going to find myself blaming the refereeing in this game. That's not something that I think really came into too much of play, even though Buffalo did go 2 for 4 on the power play here. But 3 of those calls were kind of questionable. Let's just get them out of the way right now, and then we can kind of move on from it. Zach McEwen with the goaltender interference call, that was probably an embellishment call on Pekka Luukkonen, if you had to ask me, especially after they called Drake Batherson for an embellishment call where he goes down when he kind of gets his stick chopped and he toe picks a little bit and falls forward. That gets called embellishment. Pekka Luukkonen doesn't. And then the other one, which is probably in my mind the most egregious call of them all, was after the fight with Brady Kase, where he invited Greenway to go, and Greenway dropped his gloves, obliging the invitation. And then Brady still ends up, after a great tilt, that like there shouldn't have been anyone going to a power play after that fight. The Sens end up going to have to go to the kill after that one as well. And they, of course, that's one of the ones where Buffalo ends up scoring. But dude, for the Sens tonight, they just didn't have anything cooking, really. They didn't really look like themselves. It was a sloppy game from start to finish. Took them a long time to even feel like they were even comfortable in this one. But again, I think I got to give a lot of credit to the way Buffalo came out in this one. But again, Ottawa, should beat this team, you would think, with where they're at currently in this rebuild and where they've been playing the last few games. So for me, it's just it's an absolute dog's breakfast of a game. Pilsy, I want to burn the tape on this one. It was ugly. But in the end, you come away from this one with an ugly loss, and they need to rebound from this right away and not let this turn into last year's habits, rearing their ugly head more than one game. Every now and then it's fine, but more than one in a row, I'm going to start being very concerned.
Yeah, and the November scaries are starting to creep up for Ottawa Senators fans as they're now 1-2 in November. Obviously, a lot of time left in the month to turn it around, but certainly it's disappointing. And let's go back to that play that you referenced, the Brady Kase penalty. I agree, should not have been a penalty. I think it's very clear that there's going to be a fight after that hit, even though clean hit, but that's your star player, Tim Stützle, getting absolutely rocked. You got to expect that.
After a suicide pass from Sanderson that we talked about pregame here, pre-show. I mean, that's just a bad pass from Sanderson. He was off tonight as well. But yeah, sorry, Pilsy, go on.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I agree that pass from Sandy is not typically what we see, and Tim Stützle didn't really have a chance there as he has to look down to accept that pass. Jack, how do you feel about Brady Kase getting in a fight there? We had talked about it. I think it was on today's episode where we said this is the longest Brady Kase has gone in a season without getting in a fight. Is that a moment where you'd like him to just be like, hey, like Martian said, suicide pass from Sandy, Timmy gets rocked, it's a good hit by Greenway, and you just say, that sucks, but we can't let ourselves get down one here? Or are you happy to see that even still, no matter what, Brady's going to stick up for Timmy?
I don't want to sound like the guy kind of hating on Brady Kase's style, because I love that part of his game. I think that's what makes him so unique. It's what makes him kind of a star around the league, really, right? Like, people talk about Brady Kase in this different category of other captains and other players in the league, a dying breed of power forward. But I think that's a spot I'd like to see him not drop the gloves. And I know that hindsight feels 2020 because obviously they get the penalty, which I agree should not have been a penalty. I don't know why that's an unsportsmanlike instigator or whatever it is, but the extra two and then it costs them. But I'm not going to blame the ref again for their play and the goal going in, but it's just a spot I'd like to see him not fight in, because think about the game, right? It's 0-0. You're kind of getting a little bit, it's early in the first period. They haven't even had a commercial break yet. It was before the 14-minute mark. And the Sabres are kind of carrying play a little bit, but as that period went on, the Sens are back in play. But Brady didn't touch the ice again until the 6-minute mark after the next commercial, like two more commercial breaks after. You're taking yourself off the ice for 5 minutes. He missed the power play because of that, and that the power play doesn't look great at all anymore. I just completely lost all the momentum it had. But I think he's kind of getting to the point now in his career and with this team, like he's their MVP. You know what I mean? And I think when he's playing at the top of his game, like he was against New York, against the Kraken, he was one of the best players on the ice. You just can't afford to lose him in the middle of the first period for 5 minutes. If they're down a goal or two, I like it way more. I don't know, man. Like it just didn't feel right to me. I love it though. Don't get me wrong. You see your guy go down. It being Stützle helps a little bit too. It's your line mate, your star player too. And he goes up against the big guy in Greenway. I just don't love former teammate. Yeah. Like that was a great fight. Like not kind of even both ways. I don't know. I don't know how people feel about it. I'm sure it's either way. Like, I just feel like other fans kind of hype up Brady Kase because he fights and does all this, but he's in the year 7 now of his 7 or 8 of his career. He's built that reputation around the league enough to the point where I feel like he shouldn't need to fight as much anymore. And it was evidence this year. I don't know, man. Like, he's too important to the team to be sitting in the box for 5+ minutes in the first period.
Yeah, Jack, you're right. He kind of iced himself with that fight by accident. You know, he sits there for 5 minutes, and then, like you said, he doesn't get on the ice for a little while. He's getting less ice time than Zach McEwen up until the halfway point of this game, basically. And that's obviously not what you want from this team. If you want the big physical body out there, you want it to be Brady Kase more often than you want it to be Zach McEwen. And yeah, you mentioned, you know, he's that unicorn player that everybody would like to have on their team, but picking his spots is going to be a really important thing for him going forward here. And I think I mentioned on the last postcast, he doesn't really have to do it anymore. But again, that was one of those spots where his emotions of the game, he probably wanted to set the tone for this one, being on the road, get the boys fired up a little bit. The fight wasn't anything special. It was a good tilt, two big boys going at it. But again, like if he's going to do that, I want it to be like an emphatic W in the fight or something that's really going to get the guys really going. Because otherwise, it's just all it's doing is taking him out of the play. And that's an advantage for Buffalo because, in my opinion, they're not as deep.
And I got one more thing on the fight too. Like, even after, when he gets in the game after, he just didn't look like he had legs. Like, he looked gassed. And I fights are hard, man. Like, they take a lot out of a player, and you do that in the beginning of the game. He's playing up like close to 20 minutes a night regularly. I just think that he was, and it's kind of weird that, you know, he just had that post-game press conference after the game against the Kraken where he said, you know, we want more this year. We're a different mindset. And it just felt like the same thing tonight we've seen year over year. So I don't know. A little confusing. But again, it's hindsight. If they go on and win this game and they turn it around after that play, we're all sitting here singing his praises for dropping the gloves and standing up for a teammate, but didn't end up working out for the Sens tonight after his fight.
Yeah, and also you look at the game just in total, like after the first two periods, I was feeling pretty good about just being down 2-1 against the Buffalo Sabres on the road here. Right? And then, of course, a minute into that third period, my opinion had flipped entirely. So I don't know if the fight came that much into play in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, there's 20 other guys out there who are supposed to be doing their job as well. So it was a full-blown team effort. Or if you'd rather, it was a full-blown team non-effort from the Sens tonight.
Yeah, and I thought that was the TSN turning point in the game because you allow Buffalo to get on the power play, and sure, they have a weak power play, but they get it going right away, and that gives them a big momentum boost. So that's a tough way for the Ottawa Senators to start this game. That was the first of 5 Buffalo Sabres goals in this one. Ultimately, a 5-1 loss for the Ottawa Senators up against the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to get into this game even more, but we got to tell you that this episode is brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. You guys know that the Glebe Central Pub is the official pub of the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, of the Postcast. The Glebe Central Pub is at 779 Bank Street. You can visit them, check out their website, and check out the Sen Central shuttle that they have going to every game from the pub. You can see it. Ross pulled it up here. Check out next game up against the New York Islanders on November 7th. That's going to be a big one. We want to get lots of people to that game, get things back on track here. So go to the Glebe Central Pub, our pub, 779 Bank Street, the Glebe Central Pub. The vibes are free at the GCP. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the #1 sportsbook in North America. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Guys, you can get started with $5 bet, and that's going to get you $150 in bonus bets. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Check it out today, guys, for all your sports betting needs, whether it's hockey, football, or anything else. You can find it on FanDuel.com. All right, boys. It's event cast here on the Postcast, and this is not where we wanted the Ottawa Senators to be. Martian, especially when you get Biz Nasty saying Senators fans need to calm down. They're 6-5. If they can't beat up on a Buffalo Sabres team, what are they going to do? And this is the effort the Buffalo Sabres put in here, and Biz Nasty's been letting you know about it, hasn't he?
Yeah, the guy's bullying me online. It's cyberbullying at this point right now. I don't even know this guy, and he's all over me. I've been retweeted by him left and right. He's quote tweeting me, burying me. It's not fair when a guy with 1 million followers is coming at little old me here on Twitter. It's I'll take the engagement, but boy, oh boy, is it it's tough to deal with all the Leafs mongrels he's sending my way here in the mentions. I might have to put the old mute on the notifications at this point, and that's not something I like doing. But yeah, I mean, we got to eat this one, right? We did come into this one a little bit cocky. It's not ideal to have to deal with the internet trolls, but that's that comes with the territory here, boys. And if we're gonna put ourselves out there like that, occasionally we're gonna have to eat one. It just would be nice if the Sens could occasionally, help us out and get us a W when we're putting our balls on the line like we have been here today. So I can't really say much other than that. It's not ideal, but it is fun. It's all in good fun. And I think that's what being a good hockey fan and having hockey rivals is all about. You got to take the good with the bad. You got to eat it when you can. And I'm sure there's going to come a time. I mean, we got a game coming up against the Leafs. And if the Sens end up pulling that one out, you better believe I'm coming for biz on that.
Yeah, let's hope that we get an opportunity for that. But if we're going to get an opportunity to feel better about the Sens, Jack, they're going to have to be better. Oh, these leaky momentum goals. Like we talked about at the start of the third period was absolutely brutal for the Ottawa Senators. Going into the third 2-1, sure, you're not feeling great about it, but it still feels like this game is in reach. And then all it takes is a couple of seconds for the Ottawa Senators to get behind here. Just how crucial was that start of the third period for the Buffalo Sabres' success?
I did it too there, Pilsy. Whoops. I mean, it's the reason they won the game, right? We were feeling good. Martian, in your Twitter spaces there, x.com spaces. In the intermission, everyone was confident going in, felt better in the second intermission. And then again, you turn on the game or turn off the Twitter spaces, and it's another goal by the Sabres in the first 30 seconds, the first shift. And Pilsy, I like that you mentioned the leaky goals because I think, I don't know. I mean, the second Sabres goal, that cross ice pass from Ryan McLeod was unbelievable. Like that goal, I feel like, I don't know, I'm not a goalie, but you'd like Ullmark to have it. He was in position and just snuck through him. So a leaky goal. That third one has to stay out. He had it and it literally trickled over his pad and into the net. So these road games, right, with Ullmark, we've got a stat here. It's just not a stat. It's just his record. His stats on the road. He's 0-4. He has a 4.04 goals against average. Yikes. And he has an 850 save percentage on the road here in 4 games. Those 4 road games are Montreal when the Sens were down 2-1 going into the third. Then they blow up in the third period. Vegas. We all know what happened in Vegas. And then I believe in New York and tonight. So kind of a mixed bag of games from the team, I'd say, in front of Ullmark on the road, right? You get bad effort in Montreal overall. The New York game was one of their best games of the season, and they lost. And it wasn't really because of Ullmark. They just couldn't score. And then tonight, and obviously, I almost don't even want to talk about the Vegas game, but like, I don't know, man. It's early. It's really early. It's a new team, a lot of new stuff for Linus Ullmark, but you paid him a lot of money to stop the puck. And I'm not saying he's the reason they lost tonight because the team didn't deserve to win, but I don't know how you guys feel, but when you give a goalie that kind of money and he's top 10 caliber, you expect him to be able to keep you in some of these games. And tonight, for sure, he didn't do that. He made some great saves, but those leaky goals can't go in when you're trying to give your team a chance to win, in my opinion. And like, I feel like I've come on here after the Vegas game, I was a little bit harder on Ullmark than I think most people were, just because he didn't give them that next save. And it kind of felt the same tonight, but the team just didn't play as well in front of him. I don't know what you guys saw out of Ullmark tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you can make all those big saves all you want, but if you're going to give up a squeaker, then it doesn't really matter because you might as well just let in the one that was supposed to go in and it's just going to cancel itself out anyways. You know, what we want out of an $8 million goaltender is a guy who's going to stop the puck when he needs to stop it and then make the big saves as well. So those little squeaky goals, they got to go. I don't know if it's a mental thing for him. I don't know what's going on there with him. Maybe that upper body injury is still getting to him a little bit. Who knows? But he's not quite all the way comfortable yet. And that being said, the whole team around him has to be better as well. And these are some of the defensive woes that we've been facing here for the last few years. And they just kind of reared their ugly head here again tonight. he just needs to clean it up. And I think he'll be back into form, but hopefully he does it sooner rather than later. Because, I mean, all of a sudden here, you know, we're 12 games into the season, 500 record. That's not quite good enough, especially being on the road. Like you said, 1-5 on the road is terrible. So they need to figure it out.
Always Sends says, can you guys spin the tankathon? I'm already starting to look at a prospect for next year.
Absolutely,
no, we're not doing that yet. This
come
team
on,
is 6-6 in November. I'm not panicking. I've got the panic button right here on my desk. It is off. I'm not ready to hit it, guys. Let's relax a little. But I'm still standing strong with Ullmark. I mean, this is a guy that's proven year in, year out. He can be a consistent number one goalie. So although it's frustrating for sure, I'm not throwing the towel in on Ullmark just yet. Let's have a little patience. We've got, he's signed to a 4-year extension already. We're not even close to getting going with Ullmark here. So let's have a little bit of patience. Maybe it's just a new environment that's really kind of tough for him to adjust. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses, but at the same time, we can't treat Ullmark like he's Korpisalo, like he's
no.
Talbot, like he's Matt Murray. Like, this is a different situation, in my opinion.
It's not like he hasn't had good games, right? If
no, absolutely, of course.
That St. Louis game, he was unbelievable in that game as well.
He was good against New York. He was good when he had to be against
New York too.
Let in two goals. Like that's enough for your team to win for sure. I think just with him, like, I think this contract is maybe making me look at it a little bit differently, you know. Not that I'm saying he's not playing up to it or he's not worth it, but
it's big money.
It's big money. And you look at the core contracts on the team, there's now 6 guys making in and around $8 million, and he's one of them. So you expect that when they lose, he's going to wear it. And he's one of the leaders on the team now too. He had some good quotes coming into the game just about, you can't take Buffalo lightly. You got to treat every team the same way. And then he just doesn't have a great game. So I think I'm with you though, Pillsy. I'm not by any means waving the white flag. I know that I slipped up a couple times against Vegas, exactly right against your shoulder. But remember that postcast, I may or may not have slipped up and called him Matt Murray by accident, but I hand up, that was a complete accident. But I saw people tweeting, because he was talking about his glove hand, and I just said Murray. I just said Matt Murray. But I've seen some people maybe mentioning like it feels the same. It feels the same as the Murray thing a little bit, and like legitimately talking about it like that. I don't think we're there yet, by any means. I feel like Ullmark's been much better than what they've had already. It's just been a little inconsistent.
I mean, and he's still. I mean, obviously he's got five years on this, basically 5 seasons remaining on this contract. There's this season plus the 4 that we signed him for, so it's a long road ahead here for Linus Ullmark. I like to see them string together a bunch of games with him in the net. You know, like let him have the net for a while. There's been a lot of in and out. I think when you're a starting goaltender, it just. You kind of got to find that groove, and you got to know that the coach is going to trust you to be in there every single night. I know Forsberg's been playing great, but the team has played great in front of Forsberg too. So let Ullmark find his game behind the team when it's playing well. And tonight, I think it was more so on the skaters on the ice than it was on Ullmark, even though he ended up letting in 5 goals. Sure, there was 1 or 2 squeaky ones, but there was no goal support either, boys. So. And I mean, I know they got a lot of shots on goal, but there was no finishing out there. So I feel like he's going to be just fine in there. Just let him settle in, and let's just, get him the net for an extended period. And now that we got this road trip where, we're playing for the next 2 weeks, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Let them play them all, and let's see what we got here, and let's see what this team can do.
I like it, Martian. I'm with you. Start Ullmark on Thursday up against the New York Islanders. Hopefully he can have a bounce back performance for the Ottawa Senators. It's disappointing nonetheless, but you got to look ahead to the next game. As Martian says, burn the tape on this one, and we're moving on. And if you're looking to move on and hire more employees, you can do it with Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. So join 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Senators podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Check it out today, guys. All right, boys. Lalime Martian, Jack Richardson, Brandon Pillar here in the Postcast, the Ventcast, more like. And how are we feeling about the Ottawa Senators moving forward, guys? Like, are you able to kind of chalk this up as, hey, this is going to happen. They're on the road. They don't have a lot of their players in the lineup. Like, is this a real cause for concern for you, Jack? Or is this just Senators hockey in November and you hope that they can ride through this?
I mean, I think the fact that it is Senators hockey in November is what's making me concerned. That's what's giving me, I don't know, man. Like it's so hard because they could come out on Thursday and just light the doors off of the New York Islanders. I fully expect that to happen. But like I mentioned off the top, the road games are a concern for me now. At this point, I think 1-5 is a significant enough sample size to say that I'm not confident when this team is away from the Canadian Tire Center. It's almost like Jekyll and Hyde. It really is. The games they've played on home ice have been electric. The offense is buzzing on all cylinders. They're eating shots. They're first on pucks, but it just doesn't feel that way tonight. So, and in general on the road. So I am concerned. And it's not even just November. Like they can get through this. I think they were 11-11 at some point last year. Like they were treading water for a little bit last season. It stretched a bit beyond November. It was December that got them last season. And you look at the World Juniors coming to Ottawa, they've got an extended road trip around Christmas and into New Year's. I'm concerned about that. Like, even if they kind of come out of this like 5 or 6 games above 500 and go on a good stretch, like until they prove that they can win games on the road, I will be skeptical. And I think that's fair to say as a Sens fan. But they're not a bad team. That's the thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know. Like it's a really weird spot. They're 6-6. They played great hockey. They played bad hockey. Just a mid team right now. So I don't know what to make of them.
I'm choosing to take the positive Pilsy approach to this one. I feel like I don't think that what we saw tonight is the identity of this team. I think it's closer to what we saw the last 3 games, including the game in New York that was on the road. They're capable of doing it. I think they know they're capable of doing it. This was maybe one of those just anomaly games. I'm not sure why. I don't understand why they stunk it up tonight, but they definitely did. But I do think that they are a different team, and I think it was briefly mentioned. You know, they are missing Zub. Once he comes back, hopefully on Thursday, that's going to be a nice boost to the lineup. I think you just take Hamonic right out of there. You plug Zub into that top line. Sanderson starts getting going again. The top players are all going to benefit from Sanderson, you know, being on the ice as much as he is, with a capable partner and not being angered down by a guy like Hamonic. I think that's the obvious choice. We had experts like Mark Mathot saying the same thing. They do it that way, and they just carry on from there, and they just keep playing that the way their identity was kind of being established those last 3 games. And I think they're going to be fine. I think I got to be positive about it. And going to that, the extended road trip in December with the World Juniors, that might be good for them. You know, get on the road, get the boys out, get them together, get them away from their, on the road. Crying babies and families on the road and all that. You know, get out of there. And just bond as a team and find ways to grind out some W's here, because this one was not even close on the scoreboard, but it was within reach at the end of the second period, and that's all you really need from a road game. Find a way to spoil a game and get the job done. They just didn't do it tonight. It was obviously terrible finish and terrible taste in our mouths going into a postcast tonight. We would love to be able to celebrate a road win. But for me, I'm choosing to stay positive for the most part on the team. We got a long ways to go here, obviously now being 500 through 12, but just string together a few wins and I think things are going to be okay.
You heard from Martian. If Martian is remaining positive, we all got to go with that. So positive Pillsy vibes from Lalime's Martian. Even though it's a 5-1 loss, the Senators are 6-6. It's not great, but it's certainly not as terrible as we're used to seeing here. An unfortunate loss, a disappointing loss, a poor effort from the Ottawa Senators, and they're going to have to bounce back up against another team that's probably just as desperate as the Buffalo Sabres were in the New York Islanders on Thursday. At least you get to go back to the CTC for some home cooking. If you guys want to go to the game, check out Glebe Central Pub website, get your tickets to the shuttle. This has been another edition of the Postcast. We're not going to do Sense Central standouts. I don't think we have. We don't have any Sense Central standouts, let alone 3 of them to go around here. So no Sense Central standouts tonight. Actually, just one. 145 Sens fans in the chat here. Thank you guys for joining us here. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators Postcast presented by the Glebe Central Pub. For myself, Brandon Pillar, for Lalime's Martian, for Jack Richardson, for producer Ross, we thank you for watching, and there'll be another episode of the Locked On Senators podcast wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, because you guys know it's the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.